Television was always a magic world that I knew nothing about, until I decided to leave my chair and be part of it. I wanted to learn how to tell a story and how to entertain people. I dreamed to be a magician.
Producing a show, there's all kinds of things that you have to kind of pay attention of.
The first thing that you have to do is understand the content clearly and what it is that you want to get across to the audience.
There's a ton of ideas. Everybody's got an idea for a show.
Depending upon the topic and the use of the show.
Who's your target market going to be? How many people are going to be interested in watching that show? How are you going to make that show interesting for the people who really ain't interested in that show?
What should your set look like?
What kind of host are you going to find for that show? Who's going to be knowledgeable enough to carry the slow time?
And putting a crew together that's competent skill-wise in the studio.
And then what you can do with the show, graphically and video-wise.
You can look around and see that we just don't have a ton of money to spend.
That's where it gets pretty tough.
Even for paint. We go to the dump sometimes and get recycled paint.
The guests will have their own little problems as well.
Because they understand their topic, but they don't understand television.
You got to be able to make a show sing, have continuity with the show.
And then the really fun part starts, which is scheduling people.
Yeah, I'll have a rundown of the whole show. In pre-production, there's a rundown of the whole show.
I personally have never had anybody just slump out of their chair and hit the floor, but I've seen it in other productions. People just get really nervous and they forget to breathe.
First thing you find out, half of your staff that's supposed to be helping you is called in sick.
I've had light bulbs break in the middle of a show.
We'll start putting microphones out and microphones ain't working.
I'm always very nervous about people showing up on time.
And all kinds of crazy things that happen, and the hard thing is maintaining a coolness about yourself as a producer.
About the time the crew starts rolling in, I want my talent to come.
I'll spend the morning interacting with my host.
Because I have to put them through makeup and I have to brief them and we have to put them on the set and make sure that they're very comfortable.
Whatever happens in that 30 minutes stays in that 30 minutes.
I can always plug in a hole in the crew, but I can't replace somebody on the set.
You can't get excited and start screaming and hollering. That's when it starts getting ugly.
And I always start thinking I'm going to have to trade in my headset for a microphone and go sit on the set sometimes.
You always have to find a way out. Always have a back door. Always know that you got something covered.
There are too many elements working together. People, technical equipment. For everything to be perfect for a show, it's a real long shot.
But most of the time, once it's all done, it's done. It's really hard to go back and fix something, especially if you're happy with it.
If something does not go well during the production, we'll have everybody stay on the set and we'll shoot some little bit of video so that we'll have something to edit with.
I can go add B-roll to it, so I can kind of clean it up a little bit.
Sometimes we put a wrong graphic in for someone and we know that we have to correct their name.
And you got to be thick because there are people going to critique your work.
So we anticipate that there will be problems.
And then you get some opinions, and sometimes you don't want to hear them, but you got to smile at them and go with it.
There is no such thing as a perfect television show, and the day you have one, you should retire because you've raised the bar on yourself and you're just going to be disappointed forever.
The big problem is when you get completely done with the show, the tailgate party starts.
Sometimes you also have problems with people who are involved in the program afterwards.
Everybody can tell you what you should have done and would have looked better. This could have been better. You could have shot it this way. Why did you shoot it at that time? All these things come up.
And there's really no point in that. What's done is done.
If you don't have an ego in this business, you're gonna get hit hard.
And with management's approval, I have locked the PCR door to keep people out of there after a program.
It's your work. It's something you're proud of. And so now you get all these people wanting to change this and change that. It kind of gets aggravating.
You have to be prepared
Flexibility is a big thing.
to scout your location, to have a good understanding of your set, to know your content better than anyone else.
It's being flexible with characters. I mean, there's a lot of characters in this business, and there's a lot of personalities.
You have to anticipate what they're going to say. You sort of need to know what the answers are to the questions before they're ever asked.
And you can tell a story. That's pretty nice, being able to tell somebody's story.
But you cannot walk into a production cold and expect to have any control over it.
And that volunteer word for somebody wanting to learn more about television is a pretty good word, because people like that, because that means you don't have to get paid.
So being prepared is, to me, a good 90%.
And people start handing you little jobs. They'll give you little jobs. You do well with a little job, they give you another little job. You do well with that, you get a bigger little job. And then the next thing you start producing little jobs.
Once you do that, you can start planning things around that.
And the next thing you know, you become a TV producer. Today's world, I'm really impressed because these cameras are all floating around and everybody can edit. Today, off of a computer, back in the day when I was younger, I mean, you needed millions of dollars to be able to sit with what you guys are sitting around with for $5,000. You get yourself a camera and a little editing system, and you're ready.